Thank you, Lisa. I'm not a professional host, so it's really tough to follow you. So sport wins the water cooler. This is a really exciting conversation. We get to talk about two things that I think we all love, and that's sports and gambling. I certainly love them. My name is Steve Kurtz. As Lisa said, I work on the brand direct team at the trade desk. We work with brands that in-house their programmatic. Excited to be here with Andrew Sneyd, Executive Vice President of Marketing for FanDuel.
Thanks for coming. Great to host you here.
Great to be here. So, Andrew, obviously FanDuel has seen a tremendous amount of growth over the years. Can you give us just a brief overview of that evolution and where you guys have come from and maybe where you see it going?
Yeah, thank you. I guess first, how about Coley? That was great. What a great way to kick off the day. We're very proud to be partners of the WNBA. It's exciting to have her and her team here today. And it's certainly a relevant part of our conversation. Thanks for coming to FanDuel. It's great to welcome all of you here. Exciting day for us ahead. We are a tiny little shop that got very large. I like to call this the fastest growing startup in America because more and more as states legalize sports betting, we're a growth rocket ship, and it is a lot of fun to work here. You'll meet lots of folks that are from FanDuel today. You'll see the principles on the walls here that inspire us for how we prioritize the work we do every day. In 2018, sports betting was not legal, and it started in New Jersey, and we're now in 22 states. When states open, we see the natural demand that's there, and immediately lots of people become our customers. We're very proud of what we're doing to build the #1 sports book in America. Very proud of the position that we have. And we know that we need to do this the right way so that we keep that for the long term. And as the leaders in this industry, we make sure that it's a great, safe, fun, and exciting experience for all of our customers, and that we do our best to make sure that this is a helpful thing for the community to have this legalized, and people can enjoy getting more out of the sports that they love.
That's great. And we'll get into the gambling aspect and the fantasy sports aspect of it, but I want to keep it with sport in our culture. And what sports, first question is, like, what does sports mean to you in our culture today? And how is it impacting the lives of everybody in this room and outside this room?
Yeah, it's a great question. As I step back and think about one of the great blessings that we have is that sport has naturally become the fuel of what connects us in culture. If we just stop and think, 20 years ago, everyone was enjoying the Thursday night comedy lineup on NBC, and it was the thing we all talked about at the water cooler. I promise those of you that aren't young enough to know that's true, that the gray hair on my head can confirm that that is what happened in the office 20 years ago. And the world has changed. It is not easy to find common ground topics with folks in the office or anywhere. And as we look at the numbers of what's happening in culture, I'm sure many of you saw the stat that almost all of the top 100 shows last year on television were sports broadcasts. A lot of football. Even one of the highest rated spots was just the show that came on after the Super Bowl. So the confluence of what we have common ground with is narrowing, and luckily explodes with sport, where 2 million people watched the Netflix roast of Tom Brady on Monday Night Live. And that became a conversation that was a little colorful on Tuesday morning. But just in general, we have common ground in sport, and brands have the opportunity to bring relevant currency to what they're doing. And I just think it's such an exciting time as we see sport everywhere growing. Women's sport, the records for the Derby last weekend. We enjoyed incredible records on Women's March Madness tournament, where every single game that Caitlin Clark was in became the biggest bet on sport of the day, beating all men's sports, all basketball, all hockey, everything that was on. So it's just an exciting time to see the rise of what's happening in sports connecting across the country.
Yeah, it's a great point. You go back 20 years. I'm thinking back 30 years right now. I mean, being in New York City right now, it's really exciting with the Knicks and the Rangers. I was in seventh grade when that was going on. That was a really exciting time. But to your point, you had must-see TV. You had Seinfeld and Friends.
Yeah.
So you had to make a decision, right? You had to make a decision. Do I watch the Knicks or the Rangers, which we were doing, or do I watch Seinfeld and Friends? Because I may not be able to watch it until the summer.
Right.
So where do you think today, bring it to the water cooler in the office and talking about it, like, how has it changed from the conversation was like, oh, did you see Friends last night to, oh, did you see the game last night? And how much of that do you think is impacting the rise of fantasy sports and in-game gambling and things like that?
I definitely think just the natural trends of viewership is helpful. The other thing that we see happening is that people want to be able to lean into their entertainment experiences. So in past, it was a lean back experience where I would watch a WNBA game and I would see someone won and someone lost. And I was excited as a fan or I wasn't. And now people can appreciate the game so much more in a lean in experience, probably driven by, all of the folks that grew up in gaming and now have an opportunity to be of legal betting age. They want more out of the experience. And what we see is folks that put a wager on the game now are hoping that LeBron gets more than 20 points and is Ant-Man going to be able to get more than 10 assists? This is all just a way to make more out of the game that you're watching. They're more engaged. They watch to the end. And we see a great partnership value there with all the leagues in our ability to be able to help fuel viewership and fuel engagement of the product.
Speaking of the leagues, I'll say too, it's great to see the rise of women's basketball, the rise of the WNBA. I have a 10-year-old son and a 9-year-old son, and I don't think they watched any of the men's tourney. They were like, when's Caitlin Clark playing? It's the same thing. It's like, it's not just, it is. It's a huge, huge deal. So it's great to see the rise in WNBA. The NFL recently had their draft, set records of attendance, records in ratings. They've kind of made everything a spectacle. I remember when the draft was just at the Midtown Sheraton, and there was a couple of Jets fans booing in the rafters typically every year.
They're still there booing.
They're still there booing. But talk to me how, what some of what can some of the other leagues do to catch up? Is the NFL, is it passion based at the sports level, at the actual game, or are they just doing a better job of marketing their products everywhere? And is there anything that we can do, the other leagues can do to catch up?
I think it's a great question. It's probably a little bit of both. There's naturally so much excitement for so little product. If you actually think about, there's only 17 regular season games a year. So each of those games means so much more for your team. I say that as if they're not going to make the playoffs, but I hope my Buffalo Bills still do, even with the offense they have. But despite that, they've been able to really build a full annual calendar of how they impact. And the draft is a perfect example. In an off-season moment, they're able to compete for eyeballs with stuff that's heading into playoffs in other sports. And clearly, the importance of sports and culture just means that people are paying attention every day. We're excited that FanDuel TV has Kay Adams, a great sports and NFL commentator previously with the NFL morning show. She's interviewing people every morning, and there's currency every day on interesting things that are happening, even in the off season, that fans are eager to soak up. That's because they love their teams. It's also informing what their fantasy draft picks might be next year. And it just feels like there's such a growth in people appreciating sport all around them. And as brand marketers, it's impossible to ignore. And you see a lot of people that haven't traditionally been sports marketing partners wanting to be a part of it and understanding how they can use sport to better connect their brands with their customers.
And that's great. And then I think, it's a good segue into looking at consumer behavior, especially on the device level. So, as there's been the rise of mobile the last 12, 13 years, we're always connected. We're always on our devices. I was on the train this morning. I was just curious. Can I place a bet right now? And I can. I could do it live in game and pay for baseball in South Korea, tennis in Australia. I mean, there's always ways to bet. From a marketing lens, and a technology lens. How do you stay ahead of that? How do you stay ahead of that consumer behavior to make sure that, one, you're serving your existing customer base, and two, you're attracting new customers?
That's a
to
great
FanDuel?
question. So luckily we have the opportunity to work on both. It's not an either or question. We've got a great group of marketers in the room here today. Many of them are focused on what we need to do to acquire more customers. And we're still really in the growth phase, including new states opening, but just a lot of people that need to understand betting for the first time. And what more can we do to make it easy? Our product is incredible at being intuitive and simple, which is helpful. And then we have a whole bunch of other marketers in the room that are great at understanding, once someone signs up to bet, what are the other things they might be interested in based on the behaviors that they had. So it's an exciting time, and certainly helping people to appreciate what they love and how they can make the moment even more in sport is what we're focused on every day.
Would you say personalization, identity plays a role in that? Like,
Yeah.
Looking at your first party data, enriching your first party data, getting to know your audience more in order to grow?
Yeah, we're blessed with the fact that because we're a regulated sports book, we have to know our customers perfectly before they can sign up. And with that comes great first party data that allows us to personalize experiences for people, to make sure that we're not annoying them with promotional content that's irrelevant, and instead helping them find the things they like.
So on the regulation front, in the news lately, in the last couple of years, there's been some NFL players, NBA players. There seems to be a little bit of a trend of players betting on themselves, whether it be a prop bet, betting on the games or whatnot. How does FanDuel, first question is, how does FanDuel play a role in help regulating that, help fighting against that, stopping it? And then two, how are you using technology and data to combat that?
I think this is an important question. And to put some context here, a few things have happened that are pretty high profile. The first is Shohei Ohtani's translator, which was a scenario where in a non-legalized state like LA, he turned to the black market and was using illegal gambling sites, places where you don't have to have banking registrations, money laundering, any of those things that come with the legalized part of the business. So it's unfortunate. If that were in a legalized state, perhaps that wouldn't have happened. The Deontay Porter situation is also not great, obviously. And those are moments where, as being part of a regulated environment, we're able to proactively inform the leagues when we see things that are offside. So for a long period before anything was legalized, these types of things were happening from a few bad actors. Now legalized sports betting companies are able to see that with good data and inform the leagues when problems exist. And hopefully that helps to reduce it and keeps the game operating with a great level of legitimacy and excellence.
And is FanDuel working with the leagues on this? Are you guys working, like you and DraftKings, like working hand in hand? Okay.
Yeah, we work with the leagues to identify any moments that we see are strange, and we'll speak with the proper regulatory bodies in the states and the leagues to make sure that when these instances come up, they can be immediately addressed.
And would that be the same process for the NCAA? Are you guys working? Because I think about, in a world like, if you're at a mid-major college, that might be a little bit more difficult to regulate. Like, is that been discussed? Is that something that you guys look out for?
We're always looking for the ways to
Yeah.
make sure that we're building this the right way for the long term.
Great.
So, in partnership, and again, we can only offer the markets that are approved by regulators in any state that operates.
Sure. Okay, coming down to the wire here, talking about the very competitive space of sports gambling and fantasy sports. You guys definitely have some competition. It's, you see it all the time. If you watch a pregame show, there's about 4 or 5 of them advertising. How are you and your marketing team, setting the stage to set FanDuel apart?
Yeah, it's a great question.
From all the other ones.
We are blessed that our product is the best. Third parties say that. We have a bunch of tools that we use to measure that. And so as the marketing team, it ends up being our job to try to make sure that we can help everyone understand that, the products are different, ours is better, and there's a great opportunity for us to continue to show all the ways in which FanDuel helps make every moment more with sport. And we've got a great bunch of partners. Wyden Kennedy is our agency. We also have an incredible internal creative agency building content. And we're just always trying to keep the fuel running for how is our product better and how does that deliver relevance for whatever is on the sporting calendar at any one time. So we are a very busy crew. Please take a moment if you see a FanDuel marketer in the room for thanking them for the work they're doing to try to make sure that we can all enjoy sports more. And they may be a little tired, so pat them on the back. There's a lot of work going on around here.
All right, so last to close this out, any bold predictions for one, your space, the sports gambling, fantasy sports space, and two, just sports in general? It could be from a marketing lens, it could be from anywhere, just any like high level predictions for the space.
There's just a natural trend that I think will continue and more states will open. As I said, we're now in 22. I think that'll continue. Over time, people in the beginning of a market will probably dabble and try a bunch of different products. And I suspect over time that will naturally consolidate around the ones that are providing better value, and people will be able to see that differently. But we're just going to keep working hard every day to keep earning our spot as America's #1 sports book, and excited we got great people and a great product to continue to drive that forward.
That's great. Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you,
for the
Steve.
session this morning. Give it up for Andrew.